Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode in my survival world. Now, I have been teasing for quite a while that we were going to be doing something with horses in the near future. I say quite a while because it has been quite a while. You see, I've been pretty busy with IRL stuff going on, so I really appreciate your patience with me and this episode coming out, but we are back and we are ready to go. And if you haven't been catching the hints, I have been hinting at a horse-related build, and today we are going to be doing that horse-related build. And you see, I haven't been doing nothing in between episodes. Between moving and going on vacation and all that stuff, we're going to ignore whatever that is and turn our heads this way. I have been trying to get a very, very fast horse. And if you'll direct your attention to the top of your screen there, you'll notice this horse goes very fast. Now, the fastest speed a horse can go in Minecraft is somewhere just above 15 blocks per second. And we've been stuck at just above 14 blocks per second. On top of getting the fastest horse, we're also trying to get a very high jumper, and these two are both the highest jumpers that you can get in the game. You see, over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 blocks, and that right there makes 0.25 blocks. And if you're wondering how we did that, that's just 2 little snow layers placed on top of those blocks, and that is the most a horse can jump in Minecraft, and both of these guys can clear that with ease. Yep, just like that. And they are decently fast. Both of them are around 10 or 11 blocks per second, so we don't really have to worry too much about super slow jumpers. But the end goal is to have a very fast horse that can jump very high, and considering we're at such a standstill right now, I have a feeling it's going to take a lot longer than I have already put into this game. And if you don't believe me and how long it's taken, just look at how many horses are here and here. You see, the reason that this guy is over here, I kind of ran out of space. Do I feel a little bad? Is it bad to say not really? Now, I have been scouting out this build for a long time. I've done a little bit of designing in a creative world, and I have a build that can kind of go pretty much anywhere I decide to put it. But just along the river here, we have a beautiful patch of land. One that I alluded to a couple of episodes back. You see, this entire area just screams like it wants to be some kind of horse-related build. There's plenty of open fields, there's a nice hill that we can build on top of, and there's just a lot of potential in this area. Plus, it's right on the coast. So I think this is obviously the spot that we're going to build today's build, but it's kind of gross looking right now. As beautiful as this spot of land is, there is a lot of love and tender love and care that can go into this place. So before we can get to building, we kind of need to get to tearing out some of this land, filling in some of this water, and rescuing these horses. Because once we move our operation from our small little barn over there to this big old area, we're going to have plenty of room for all those spare horses, and we won't have to, godfather them, if you catch my reference. Make him an offer he can't refuse and all that. I started my terraforming, but then I immediately noticed this ginormous eyesore just off the coast, so I figured it was a good idea to take this ruin portal out of the ocean. That way it wouldn't ruin the beautiful landscape that I was going to try and create here. I jumped from working on the coastline area to the interior, clearing out all the grass and the flowers, filling in the land, shaping the hills, and all in all just jumping back and forth between every bit of land stretching across this peninsula. I even went below some of the hills that I made and poached all of the grass underneath of it. That way I wasn't totally draining all of my own resources. With the terraforming done, it was finally time to start building on these outlines. I think I finally got to a spot where I'm liking all the terrain that we have in this area. The hills feel natural and it kind of rolls and flows into each other, and the beach looks pretty nice. All in all, this will be a really great template for everything that we're going to add in this area. Of course, we are not near done. We still have all of our builds to put in, and the big build, the gazebo over there, and the entire racetrack that's going to stretch all along that riverbank. But I'm in the mood for some building, so we're going to put in that main building first, and then we're going to freehand some of these stables and everything over in this area, and probably those 2 racing towers over there as well. But without any further ado, we have a house to build. And with the house fully done, it was time to start work on the stables, but as soon as I was done with the first wall of the first stable, it started thunderstorming outside. And knowing how rare and important of an opportunity this was, I sprung into action and got a couple of mob heads while the opportunity was ripe. And getting back to work on the stables, I went with kind of an archway design around the whole thing. It was pretty simple to copy from one to the other, and all in all, it was a really easy, good-looking build without being too heavy on the details. I couldn't quite copy our original design over to a diagonal, so I kind of modified it a little bit, and I think it ended up looking pretty good too. Now these are some fantastic additions to this space right here. I'm very happy with how all three of these came out, especially this diagonal one. I've wanted to practice using diagonals, and this was a great opportunity to kind of stretch out some ideas and kind of play around with a certain theme that we had already built and then trying to replicate it into a diagonal. That way I think it made it slightly easier to switch it from a straight build to a diagonal one. And considering how much fun I had with it, we're probably going to incorporate more diagonal builds come soon in the future, because I really like how this came out. Of course, we do still have all three of the interiors to do, but those are going to be pretty simple, and I think those are going to be one of the last things that we're going to do. But so far, I'm thinking this one, since we only could fit 2 different stables in here, this one will be for our champion horses. And then this one and this one, we can either do a jumping or speed or switch them around and see how we feel. But so far, we have 4 stables in each of these 2, so that means we can have 8 horses in these 2 and then 10 total after this one. And after a quick nap. Now that obviously isn't going to be enough for all the horses that we have stored in our barn over there. So I was thinking somewhere in this area, we have a lot of extra space. And this hill isn't necessarily beautiful. Right now, of course, it's occupied by these creepers. But considering we have most of this area dedicated for the future racetrack, and then these hills over here being a little too small, I think if we leveled up this land up here a little bit, added a lot more grass and maybe some moss so it has a lot nicer of a green color to it, this area would be great to house all of our extra horses. That way we don't have to get rid of quite so many. But before we get to adding that gigantic hill, I do want to finish all of the detailing in this area. I think one of the last things that we'll do today, if we even do it today, is going to be that racetrack. And of course the interior of this build. So for now, we're going to hop back into some terraforming and hopefully get a big chunk of this region knocked out. And of course, looking beautiful. My main goal with this area was to try and make it feel as lived on and as realistic as possible, trying to create pathways where I feel like they would form around the hills and across the beaches and all that kind of different stuff. And of course, adding to the realism, I had to incorporate my favorite retaining walls all around the hills because it didn't feel quite right to have these gradual hills and then a completely flat area. So I put a little more work into these hills, made them feel a little bit more man-made, and I think that overall helped a lot with the realism. And continuing on this realism track, my brain started overflowing with ideas for making this race course feel like it was an actual race course, like people actually came to this area and watched horses race. That meant including a stand, a little medic tent maybe, a nice beach overlook, stuff like that. Just stuff that just made it feel like humans or people were actually living here and had been here over time, just adding these little bits of details here and there on the land, slowly making it into what it is today, or what we're going to make it. You know, it is super basic right now, but honestly, I am very pleased with how this project has come so far. We don't quite have all the details that I want to have in yet. Obviously, we still have a lot of plans laid out, but it's been quite a while since I uploaded an episode, and I feel really bad about leaving you guys hanging this long. You see, in case you didn't know, I've been moving, and I was kind of moving like all throughout this episode, so that's why it's kind of all over the place and why it's so late. But we were still able to get some solid building in, some terraforming and planning and all that stuff. And I'm super happy with where it sits at right now. And in all honesty, it's probably a really bad idea to leave this project right in the middle of it. It's not very YouTuber of me. You see, most of the people nowadays commit to full projects in one episode and they complete these entire massive cities, these gigantic plans, all in the span of 20-minute episodes. And you see, while I would love to do that, I am only human and I'm very new to this YouTube thing. I don't do this full time, so I really appreciate your patience with this episode coming out and the part two that'll come out after this episode. In that episode, we'll finish all these plans that we laid out, all the details and everything like that. But right now, I'm kind of 2 weeks behind on updating to 1.20, and I'm really excited to explore those new features. So we're going to put a pin in this project for today. Next episode, we're updating to 1.20, and then after that, we'll come back and finish this project. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm very excited to finish this. I think it's in a great spot right now, and I think it's going to add so much to our world. And it just started raining, so I think our game is telling us that it's time to end today's episode. I very much appreciate your patience on waiting for this episode and sticking around as long as you have. Now that I'm fully moved in and settled, we should be back to a regular weekly upload schedule. So for now, I want to say thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.